Welcome to Sac Taff. Another week has just blown by, and I hope your week's gone well. And it's been a little bit of a challenging week, but you sort of think, have I learned anything? Am I going to react the same way I did last time? Is there an improvement in the way that I respond to things? I think this is what we've got to look at. When you go through certain things, like we all do in life, I mean, are we learning anything as we go through them? And when something either occurs or reoccurs, how do we respond? Are we responding in the same way? If the way that we responded before wasn't that great, are we responding in the same way, or have we learned and that we're responding in a much better way? These are the things sometimes we have to look at. But yeah, it's been the week's been okay. I managed to meet a gentleman actually yesterday when I was promoting my book Taffy How, and he heard me say that I was an author, and he said as soon as I heard you say that you were an author, because I think I was talking to his partner, and I think as soon as, no, not I think he said as soon as I heard you say that you were author, I just dropped everything and came up to see what it is you're talking about. So and I shared about how I've written and self-published a book, Taffy How, which you've seen many a time maybe. And he looks at it with enthusiasm, and he said that he's actually a screenwriter. And I'm like, wow, really? Yeah. And he said, yeah, I'm actually a screenwriter, but I've got an idea for a book. I'm actually working on a book now. And he shared a little bit about what he was doing, and that he was actually working then and there, but he was like, really, he just wanted to know what I was talking about. So that's why, he wanted to see what the book was about and so on and so forth. And yeah, I just like it when people look at my work with enthusiasm. I really do love it. And then basically his partner bought the book, and I've given him my business card as well to say, look and see what I'm doing online, if you want to follow and so on and so forth. It's always good to network, isn't it? And I met another lady last week, and she also was enthusiastic about the book, whereby she took it, and I just like the way that people look at it with interest and such enthusiasm. She took it, and basically, even with not really looking in it, and just said, look, I'm going to go and buy it. I'm going to go and buy it. And because I'm writing, and I hope for one day to get my book published, and it just made me feel as though I'd really achieved something, you know. Even though I've self-published it, it's still an achievement. That's how she made me feel. It is. I feel like it is an achievement, but some people don't value that. They don't value the amount of work and effort that's gone into it, and the amount of courage it takes to do that, to self-publish and put your work out there, And yeah, she gave me £20 for it. She said, "No, just take that. I feel you've inspired me," which is really, really encouraging to hear. So yeah, I wanted to share actually what happened a while ago, and you always sort of like put a lockdown on a lockdown. You always put a lockdown on lockdown, and then you sort of work behind those. And it was that year before. I think it must have been in 2017, 2018, something like that, where I met somebody who was really interested in what I was doing, and I told him about my other book, and he shared about how he's a filmmaker, and that he's really interested in what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh wow, a filmmaker's really interested in what I'm doing. But he was saying that, no, but I want to help you to promote the other book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. And I knew that it wasn't ready for me to promote it then. I was focusing on Taffy How, but he was like, no, the Sacrifice of a Lifetime sounds better, even though he hasn't read it and he hasn't read Taffy How. I think the way I explained about Sacrifice of a Lifetime, he was saying, no, I want to promote that book. Subconsciously, it wasn't the time to promote it. It wasn't the time. The focus was on Taffy How. But anyway, he was saying, no, that's what I want to do. And I thought, okay, fair enough. And then what he did was he got together, he said that I want you to change the cover of the book. The cover of the book of A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, this one's the very basic one, but I've got one with their image on it. But I know it does need an improvement. And he said that he wants to update the image of the book. And, he wants the book to look more expensive because it's just going to make people more interested in the book if it looks a lot more expensive and this, that, what have you. And I just let him go along with it, because I know that when you're starting to do something, you do what you can do. But if he was, wanted to make it look more expensive and so on and so forth, I just let him go with the flow. I personally wouldn't have taken the step to do it how he wanted to do it, but I just thought, just let him go with the flow. Let him go with the flow. And then he was saying to me that he can see this making a lot of money, and he'll be able to, help me to promote it in such a way that it's going to attract a lot of attention, which is what we want. Okay. Then basically what it was, I had I started working alongside, what was the name? How can I explain? It was a platform for actors, models, dancers, is that sort of thing. All right. And I signed up with this company, and then I managed to get a part, an acting role, which was the main role for a short film that was going to be put on YouTube. And it went well, to the point that people were saying, one person even asked me, how long have you been acting for? Because they were like impressed with what I was doing, right? So what's happened now is, I think I sent him the video of it, right? And I thought he was going to say, well, that's really encouraging. I didn't even know that you did acting. Yeah, you did really well. It's really good. It's a short film, but it's really good, considering he's a filmmaker. But the response was, it was quite negative, and he was sort of saying that, he had met one of my children. They would have been really good in there. I could see that, this particular person doing really good in the play, acting. It was like that. And I started getting a bit of a headache. And I'm not really a headache type of person. And I just found him so discouraging. And I just left it at that. And then there was another time where he wanted to set up a website for me. Fantastic, because I didn't have a website. So he wanted to set up a website for me. But I said, I'm not ready yet, because obviously I'd have to pay him. And I was sort of saying, no, I'm not ready yet. And I'm going to see if I can move this a little bit this way. It might look better that way. Yeah, I said that I'm not ready yet. But he didn't listen. He went along ahead and put the website together. Didn't even ask me about the colours I would have wanted. He just assumed that I wanted it the same colour as the book, and so on and so forth. And I remember him phoning me up and really being excited about the fact that he's put together the website, and it was at this stage where I said that I can't work with this person. I can't, because he's not listening to me. I can't work with this person. One, I felt really discouraged when I showed him something that, I had taken part in, right? And it was new to me as well. And I found him very discouraging. And two, I've said that I wasn't ready for a website. And even if I was ready for a website, I would have liked to discuss the colours that I would have liked for it. And that wasn't discussed. He just basically went ahead and, did it. And there were other little things as well that I just felt like, nah, I'm not happy with it. Even though he could have pushed me forward, I wasn't ready to bring out A Sacrifice of a Lifetime then. I wasn't ready. Even now, look how long I've started this podcast. And this podcast is supposed to cover A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. I started the podcast in December. We're now in April. And it's only last week I started reading part of the first page. you know, and that's because it's not, I know that I have to now, but then I wasn't ready, and it was like I was being pushed to do something, and to promote something I wasn't ready to promote, but he wasn't listening. And then I just decided I just don't want to go ahead with it. And I remember even talking to someone about it, and they go, "Oh, you know, it's so good that this person's helping you, and so on and so forth, you know." And I remember saying something to someone else, and someone, and it's just amazing how people can be a bit discouraging, you know. So you live and you learn. You live and you learn. You know, you do live and you learn. And so I decided, I didn't tell him that, oh, you know, you don't listen to me, and this, I'm not happy with this, I'm not happy with so on and so forth. I didn't say anything. I just basically, he had to just basically look at the signs at the end of the day, and for him to understand, he's gonna have to look at how he's dealt with the situation, and for him to understand it didn't go well with me, I'm not happy with it, bye, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, and there were one or two other things that it just didn't, you know, I just felt, no, I don't want to work with this person. So I think it's always important to, if you're doing something, to find the right people to work with. They've got to be encouraging, supportive towards what you're doing, you know, be able to give you good advice, and to listen to you. And I'm sure there's more that I can add on to it, but these are the things that when dealing with this particular person, it just wasn't, something just wasn't quite right. And I just thought, no, even though he would have been able to raise me up and push me forward and make a lot of money, which is what he was saying, you know, you can make a lot of money, but if you're making a lot of money with the wrong people involved, it's not, I don't see how, it's not beneficial. In the long run, it's not beneficial. You need the right people around you. Yeah, so he understood. It looked as though he understood, and he didn't contact me. He tried. I know that there were a few messages, and I messaged back a brief message, and that was it. And I remember that was it. And to the point that he basically left it at that. I did not want to work with that person, and to this day I'm quite. I know who I want to work with and who I don't want to work with. I know who I want around me and who I don't really want around me. If you're too negative, and I just don't see how you're going to be beneficial to what I'm doing. I really don't. These are the things that I look out for. Yeah. So anyway, last time I started reading you a little bit of A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, I read the prologue, didn't I? I'll read some of chapter 1. This is chapter 1 of A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. And this is the book that I'm going to start re-editing, and I will be bringing it out soon. Rebecca was a sweet-tempered child with a bright and enthusiastic face, a dark complexion that emphasized her bright brown sparkling eyes. She had short, tight, black curly hair, which was braided most of the time to induce more growth, but was sometimes pulled back into a bun. Rebecca, although small in physique, appeared to be tall and slender as she grew up. At preschool age, she attended the local nursery, which was situated at the Catholic Church, St Andrews. Just around the corner from her home, she attended the morning sessions, and her mother used to take her and pick her up. Oh yeah, pick her up at midday. Mrs. Barracu had been a nurse, but had taken 10 years off to raise her family. However, because Rebecca was her last child and would soon be attending the infant school, Mr. Barracu was persuaded to allow his wife to go back to her profession. A lot of people now wouldn't like the word allow his wife. They wouldn't like that, was it? It's like, I'm going to go back to work. No matter what you know, some people I know wouldn't like that. Yeah. Where am I now? Yeah, so this excited Mrs. Barracu because although she enjoyed being at home with her family, she felt that her children were stable enough for her to go back to work. She applied to a number of hospitals and was accepted at South Norwood, as she chose to work nights so that the children would be safe at home with their father. This new situation worked out well. Janice, Rebecca's eldest sister, helped look after her by bathing her and getting her ready for bed and also feeding her. Bernice helped her mother out with small chores in the kitchen, such as keeping it clean and sweeping the floor. Jack would be busy playing with his cars while Mr. Barracu relaxed in his chair. That sounds lovely, doesn't it? Some of the things that I've written, I can't remember. I don't remember my mum telling me that she got the job at Norwood Hospital. I can't remember that. I can't remember her telling me that she took 10 years off work. All of these things. I'm so grateful that I wrote this book years ago with such a sharp memory, and I feel even reading that paragraph there, it just really excites me. It's taking me back to memory because it is based on my life. That's why I've called it a sacrifice of a lifetime, because further on I do share things that are very personal that people have responded to, some negatively because they couldn't understand why I was sharing them. And I think that's why it's taken me so long, and I've procrastinated into starting the book because I know I'm going to have to get to that stage where I'm going to have to share with you. But I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it, definitely so. And then it's got here, Mr. Barracu did not at first approve of his wife going back to work. But when he realised that she was bringing him home a good wage packet and that the children were not adversely affected, he accepted the situation and supported his wife. As time progressed, Rebecca attended Beulah Infant School, which for her was quite a walking distance away. She enjoyed the school and loved the company of other children. She always felt a sense of happiness and involvement in her class. On one particular occasion, she had placed herself on a chair behind her teacher's desk. It was spring and the sun shone warmly and brightly through the nearby window, making her feel curiously relaxed and remote from everyone within that classroom. And the voices of the other children and their squeals of joy and laughter suddenly became distant. And Rebecca was in a state of happiness as she began to draw a picture of her back garden. She began to hum a tune and then to sing to herself as she coloured in the grass with a crayon before drawing the apple tree and then the pear tree. Her reverie was interrupted by the teacher. Rebecca. Yes, she said. Will you stop singing, please? It was only then that she realised what she was doing. She quickly turned around. The children's voices re-emerged as she recovered and regained the reality surrounding her. And it's amazing that I find it amazing reading that, because to this day, I can do that. I can be in a room full of people and I can just basically, everything can become mute, in a distance, and I can just focus on something that's in my mind, and be quite happy and content just sitting there on my own. I'm a very sort of sociable person, but I don't know, sometimes you can be in a room where maybe some people aren't accepting you, or people are just in their groups or what have you, and you're just standing there, and or it can be in a situation where I'm with a group of people, and for some reason the conversation isn't sort of like including me for some reason, or I try to include myself and it just feels as though I'm not being included. I can take myself away from that situation, and all of that can be in the background, and I can just focus wherever I want to in what's on my mind, and to the point that the people around me don't like it, because it's like, hang on a minute, indirectly that was supposed to make me feel a bit odd, but it hasn't. And it's like they try then to either include me or try and figure out what's going on, or try and humour it to sort of say, oh, she's off on her own world again. Do you know what I mean? It's happened before recently. A few months ago it happened, where I was in a group. There was only about 3 or 4 people in that group. And it just felt like the conversation was all swept into one corner, leaving me out, even though, you try and join in and you sort of get it. So I decided to put my headphones on, one in and one out, so I could still see what was going on around me. But my mind sort of, I was just relaxed, and my mind was just what have you, focusing on what have you. And then they realised what was going on. And I heard someone say, oh, she's off. They tried talking to me. I didn't hear at first or respond as quick as I should. And then I heard someone say, oh, she's off on in her own world again because it was supposed to affect me. It's like, look, if you want to leave me out, not a problem. Yeah, I've got other things going on in my mind that I can think about, positive things. Not, I don't want to sort of sit there and start thinking about doom and gloom. Do you know? Yeah. So it's amazing, sort of looking back to see that I actually was like that then and there. I'm not saying the children were leaving me out; they weren't. I was quite happy sitting there colouring, but that's what happened, you know. So it is, even, you know, reading it now. It just basically resonates with me more to see, because sometimes, you know, how we are as an adult can reflect on how we were as a child, you know. So it's really, really encouraging just basically reading that. So I'll continue to update you more on that. But you've got a sense of an idea of the background of Rebecca's home life, the stability she had. And then you've got a little bit of an idea of the character that's being formed in this young child. And I will continue. So I find it quite exciting, actually, reading this book. And I'm pleased that I'm able to sort of do a little bit, make the podcast a bit longer now. So, yes, it's all good. I'll read a little bit more. Her days in the infant school soon came to an end, and it was now time to move on to Winterbourne Junior School, which was slightly nearer to home, although in the opposite direction. Rebecca befriended a girl called Mandy. Mandy has a sister a year younger than herself called Laura, who took after her mother. Mandy was more like her father in character and looks. Although she was slim, she had broad shoulders and a wide chest. She was an attractive girl with shoulder-length brown wavy hair, sparkling blue eyes and a healthy complexion. She had an air of boldness and wanted to become a deep-sea diver when she grew up, like her father. Who loved his work and travelled many times throughout the year to Africa. Laura was attractive too, tall and slim like her mother, with the same blue eyes, but straighter hair than her sister and a less rosy complexion. The idea of becoming a deep-sea diver would have terrified her. There you go. So I'll share some more in my next podcast. If you want to see what I'm doing online, I'm on Instagram, Rosalind1325, and on Facebook and YouTube, and also on X. And my YouTube and podcast, my YouTube is Welcome Rosalind Roberts, and my podcast is on Studio YouTube, and it's called Sac Taff. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.